Thank you very much for joining us on this next LinkedIn Live. My name is Justyna Brownbridge, and I am the Chief of Growth for Tribal Impact. For those of you who don't know Tribal Impact, we are a social selling and employee advocacy agency on a mission to humanize B2B brands by making their employees active on social media. So for several years now, we have been on this mission to educate and inspire the market and provide the information on how to do that in the most effective way, how to activate employees on social media. So for me, it was absolutely amazing to come across Anna Bertoldini on LinkedIn and realize that she's on the same crusade, sharing her observations and her thoughts and experience on this subject. So I reached out to Anna and we've had several conversations, and she's agreed to do this LinkedIn Live with me today. So Anna, once again, thank you very much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Oh, this is fantastic. Looking at your posts, looking at what you've been sharing, looking at the conversations that you generated thanks to your willingness to put yourself out there and to make a decision to be so consistent as well with your content on LinkedIn. You've generated quite impressive community of followers on LinkedIn. I think the last time I looked, you had over 20,000 followers. This is incredible. Tell me, if we could start with that maybe, and then we'll do a little bit of introduction. What made you decide to do that?
I mean, I still can't believe it either. Sometimes I look at that number and I'm like, what? But no, it really made me, I never started with like an objective with that. I think I just started with kind of sharing interesting articles and things that I found, things that I learned throughout my career, and eventually just kind of started gaining traction. And I saw that people were interested in what I had to say, which at the beginning was incredible to me. I was like, what? Like, you're interested in what I have to say? And then slowly it became really a passion of mine. And I really refined my content to make sure that it would add value to my community, but also it's really meant to spark a discussion, conversation, right? There was never an end goal with this. It was mostly just to kind of learn from others and spark that type of interesting conversation. So that's how it began. That's how it is right now.
Thank you for doing this, because there's hardly anyone as well, especially from practitioners' side, sharing their journey and their observations, and you're doing that in such a great, straight to the point way that for those of you who've never come across Anna and this is the first time you're hearing from her, please, I would just recommend following her here on LinkedIn. So this is a LinkedIn Live, right? I don't know. Have you ever done actually LinkedIn Live before, Anna? I've never asked you this question before.
That is such a great question. I think I've done it maybe once before. Yeah, okay. I think once before. So I love it already. I love the platform, and I think it's a great way to reach people. I'm excited.
And this is the great way of the fact that we get to interact with people who watch us. So for those of you who are there online right now, I would love if we could start this conversation. If you could say hi and where you are joining us from, maybe which company or which country, which area of the world. I know we've had quite a lot of people signing up from a variety of different places around the world. That would be great. Just to let you know, there is a bit of a delay between what we see on the screen versus what you see, because we are using StreamYard to log into the platform. So we might be a bit slow with picking up these highs and comments and questions that you may have, which, by the way, feel free to add them in, because that's the beauty of LinkedIn Live. But we will address all of them. So we hope you can join this conversation. And also this conversation is being recorded as we speak. So if at any point any of you have to leave, please feel free to just save that link and then go back to the link whenever you're ready to finish listening. So Anna, I haven't even done the introduction. I have done a little bit, but maybe if you could just tell us a bit more in terms of where you work, what it is that you do, and maybe what it is that your company does as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. So hi, I'm Anna Bertoldini. I'm based in Barcelona, Spain, although I'm Italian American. And right now I'm leading our global employer branding and recruitment marketing efforts at NielsenIQ. So really, in my short time at the company, because I've been here a little over a year, I've been aiming to bring our EPP to life across our candidate journey and employee life cycle, making sure that we optimize and humanize each of its touch points. So anything from reputation, content development, social media, recruitment marketing, branding, you name it, wherever there's candidate communications, I've been involved. And NielsenIQ, soon to be NIQ, from a brand perspective, is a global consumer intelligence company that aims to deliver the most complete and trusted view to consumers and markets in 90 plus countries, which covers over 90% of the world's population. I think I know that by heart now. That's the pitch. I've said it so many times now that I can just repeat it as I speak.
So the elevator pitch, yeah?
Yes. And actually the company recently spun off as a separate company as NielsenIQ, because actually the company itself, which was founded in 1923 as Nielsen, is over a century old. We're turning 100 this year. So now we're a separate company since 2021, but the mother company is a century old. So it's a really exciting time to be at NielsenIQ, as we have so much history, but also we're reinventing ourselves.
Excellent, thank you. And we've actually had someone from Nielsen, so the mother company, on the show before. Ooh. Social media manager from Nielsen. I think he is now part of another company, but he was also sharing their journey with employee advocacy. But yours is a very interesting angle, because with the employee advocacy and activating employees on social media, there are different people involved in this process. Different people usually drive this process. So we often have either this process being started by marketing team or sales team, or specifically within the marketing social media team. But you are an employer branding specialist. And I think this is such a hugely different aspect as well to this subject that you are bringing to this conversation, that I would love if we could start this chat with maybe you telling us a bit more why, what is Nielsen's IQ approach to employee advocacy, and how does that connect with your employer branding efforts?
Yeah, so that's such a good question. So at NielsenIQ, we strongly encourage employee advocacy. I never know how to pronounce that, British or American way. Advocacy. Yeah, we actually have a couple of programs dedicated to employee advocacy. So formal, let's say, programs. And one is our NIQ Ambassador program dedicated to branding. So we're collecting people who want to volunteer to be brand ambassadors and, ensure compliance, make sure that the messaging is consistent, and that, they're representing our brand well and our mission well externally. And then we also have a social media employee advocacy program. We'll call it, let's say, an influencer program. So the people who are most vocal online are selected and also are briefed on kind of the content that we want to put out, and are encouraged to do so even more. So you have a couple of formal ones. And then under employer branding specifically, we have our ongoing Life at NielsenIQ campaign, where each week we feature an employee story. And as part of this, we have essentially each week an employee from a different department. We tend to prioritize teams that have, higher priority in hiring and need, most people to join their teams. So we prioritize those teams, but we have a department represented each week. And that's kind of how we do it. We have a mix of both employees speaking up in their own voice, but also our employees represented in our corporate communications as well. And that fits into our EB strategy, because with employee advocacy, and I'm such a strong believer in it, as you know by now, it really adds that layer of authenticity, trust, legitimacy, and credibility to our messaging, originality as well, because we want people to tell their story in their own unique voice. And also, it really helps us reach a wider audience and those people's networks overall. So it's a organic and free way to reach more people. Like, that is the secret sauce. It's relying on people to spread your message in the most authentic way possible, virtually for free. So it's truly marketing's best kept secret, in my opinion. We also have, it's good for employee recognition, to make them feel valued and celebrated. And finally, of course, it educates our audience on what we do through our employees, and them explaining their projects, what they do in their teams, is also the culture at the company. So it really educates our audience on what NielsenIQ is and does, because sometimes companies as big as ours, which has about 30,000 people, can seem like a black box.
Yeah. Yes, this is so many great points in there already. You know, you're just so clear as well, and going down to the core of what activating employees online helps you achieve. Yes, it's making your brand more authentic. It's free marketing. It's helping employees feel more engaged. It's helping being your company being perceived as an employer of choice. There's just so many things that you can achieve, so many goals that you can achieve via your program. And you sound like you've got a very comprehensive program within NielsenIQ. And I would love to just touch on a few of these points later on in this conversation. But I've just realized, I don't know if you realize that, Anna, I think this conversation, what we see in StreamYard, was set up to default as private chat. But when you click on the second option, that's just a message to you, Anna, there are comments. And there are loads of comments. So there's so many people saying, oh my gosh, contact is awesome on employer branding. Hi, from northeast of England. I'm in north of England as well. I'm based in York. Oh, hi, Claire. Joining from Amsterdam, London, Manchester, Germany, Barcelona again. Hello.
I know many of these people too, so I'm excited to see you. Hello.
This is Bruce. We've got Bill joining from US, Philadelphia, Nuremberg, Lucas, Hertfordshire. There you go. Hungary, Denmark. This is incredible. Wow. Northern Islands. Hola a todos. Somebody speaking Spanish. Ignacio. There you go. Do you speak Spanish, Anna? I'm just thinking now.
Sí, lo hablo.
There you go. There you go. Fantastic. My Spanish is very limited. So yes, if you could stick to English, that would be great.
But I think you're native in Polish, which is like one of the most difficult languages, I think, to learn and to know in general, right?
For people who have to learn that's the second language, yes, I've heard that. Yes, it is. It is.
I heard it's super complicated.
And I've been trying unsuccessfully to teach in Polish for the past 15 years. You know, we'll get there one day. We've got a daughter now. She's learning both languages at the same time. So hopefully one day you'll be able to speak a bit more. But yes, I think English is probably the best language that we could stick to in here. Guys, keep on coming with saying hi. Thank you. Thank you for joining the conversations. Any questions, any thoughts that you have as well, this chat is for all of us to take part in. This is the best way also for networking. So my only suggestion for those of you who are saying hi's is to just start networking, because you're here because something either is in you that already believes that this is the way forward for the businesses to spread the word about what it is that they do, who it is that they are, or because you're ready to go on a journey to start learning. So those of you who are connecting in here and starting this conversation, hopefully this will be also a great opportunity for you to network with each other. So going back to the conversation, so going maybe a bit more into details, I know that you do a lot at NielsenIQ in terms of bringing employee stories to life, right? This is the subject of our event. Can you tell us a bit more in terms of specific practical examples of how you do that within your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So since at the moment it's just me, I'm doing employer branding. It's mostly about me contacting, right, hiring managers, leaders, and asking for people, mostly top performers, that they want to recognize publicly. So first of all, I love creating those relationships with leaders within the company. It's a good networking opportunity. So I love contacting people saying, hey, like, what do you do in your teams? And can we talk about that more? But essentially to source stories internally, I'll contact, and like I said, I'll prioritize teams that need to hire the most. So go to those leaders in those regions across the world, and I'll ask, hey, you know, we're doing a Life in NielsenIQ campaign. We want to highlight people in your team and want them to talk about their experience in the company, the type of work that they're doing, and how it connects to the business strategy. And then I'll ask for 5 to 10 names, including that leader's name, by the way. I'm like, hey, you're included here too. And so then they provide me those names, and I'll contact those people, and I'll ask for I'll provide like a little bit of a guideline, like a little script saying, hey, if you want to touch upon these points, and that's mainly to reinforce our EVP narrative, because what we want to do is get people's testimonials, but that they should always tie back to our EVP in some way. So, hey, can you talk about how you make an impact, or what are the types of complex challenges that you solve, right? Just to make sure that it all kind of ties back to that central story that we're trying to create with these micro stories. And then I'll always ask for a picture.
Maybe ask them here just a little bit, because there might be other audiences as well watching this who are not in the employer branding. If you could just very briefly say what EVP stands for.
Oh, that's a really great point. Thanks. So yeah, employer value proposition. A company's employer value proposition is, in a very simplistic way, the North Star that guides how you engage with both candidates and employees alike with your messaging. It's really what makes working for your company truly unique. It's what you offer to employees and candidates in exchange for their tenure within the company. And it's a mix of financial and non-financial benefits.
Perfect. Thank you. So for marketing, that would be equivalent kind of to UVP, yes? Unique value proposition.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's the employer brand version of that. So, so yeah, going back, I'll always ask for a picture, a testimonial, and now we're slowly switching to video. And obviously consent, right, to use their picture and video and story on all of our channels. So a lot of people say yes, and they're really excited to be a part of it. Some people sometimes say no. So we get a good variety of people from different teams, and the ones who don't wish to participate don't have to. We always get the option of being a part of it or not.
So video, so this is a big one, right? So getting people already online, in a written format, that is often already challenging. You are already going one step further, doing video. Can you tell us a bit more on this? Expand a bit more. How do you produce these videos? Do you require a big agency to do that, or do you have some simpler way of doing this?
Yeah, so we do everything in-house. We have an amazing creative team in-house. It's a big team, and so they're able to cater to multiple businesses within the company, multiple teams. But essentially what I do is I ask people to film themselves with their phone. I do not want polished videos, corporate-y looking things. So I always ask people to have like a vertical format video of themselves, mostly like up to 45 seconds. Otherwise, we can always cut it down. And just of them talking about their story, right? Just like that. Super simple, shaky iPhone videos and pictures. And then I ask our creative team to add lower thirds. So like their title and their name, super simple, not much branding, very authentic and human. We have not started using these videos yet externally. We have a few up from different campaigns, but for the Life at NielsenIQ 1, we're gonna be launching that next month because our new brand is launching as well.
Okay. And this is such a huge trend. User-generated content is a huge trend. At the end of the day, like you say, this is more authentic. This is more real. Someone doing maybe not perfect video with not maybe perhaps perfect light and sound. It's still more authentic than the slickest marketing video produced by big budgets, efforts to make that happen. So I love that this is also how you simplify in the process, and I guess saving the time for employees in order to make that happen.
Yes. And honestly, most of the time people don't have big budgets. Like, I'm very happy for the teams who do, and that's amazing. But most teams, especially in employer branding, don't have massive budgets to work with, but you don't need to have deep pockets to do great employer branding. I'm just going to say that to everyone out there. You don't need to have a lot of money to do great employer branding. As long as your employees are happy and they're willing to vouch for you, you can get all of that great messaging out there.
Brilliant. You've got some great tips as well. We had this conversation already offline. Well, we're still online. Right? We never met in person. Hopefully one day we'll. We talked about the tools that you use that are not typical tools that maybe someone who is very much more familiar with employee advocacy as a subject would be. Could you tell us a bit more about these tools and how you use them to share content?
Yeah, so at NielsenIQ specifically, we rely on our creative team. So in-house design for if there is any branding applied to the pictures, generally not, but we'll start having some of that. And then the tools that we use are Yammer, for those of you who use Microsoft products. But let me first say this, I'll tackle this question a little bit differently. So depending on the reality you work in, because you may be in a big multinational, a small startup, whatever it is that you work in. I don't think there's a winning formula for kickstarting an employee advocacy program. I think there are some main ingredients, right? So the first one is that your employees need to be happy. I know this sounds silly, but no, it sounds really obvious, but your employees need to be satisfied. Otherwise, they're not going to vouch for you, speak up about you. It's going to take a lot more effort. And also, I really don't recommend incentivizing people to speak up, saying, hey, if you say something nice about us, we'll give you this reward, because it can sound fabricated. And so people need to be happy. That's the first step, and the most probably obvious one. The second step is to provide educational and training material, right? So that could be a playbook, that could be a SharePoint site, whatever it is that where you want to put that information to educate people on the power of personal branding and how it can benefit them. So it's not meant to benefit the company. Actually, it's supposed to be a win-win situation. You're helping people widen their networks, get the word out about who they are and what they do. And then that also happens to help the company. So you're trying to help employees with this and harness their voices. Then I also recommend having some key brand champions. So people who are already vocal, already willing to speak up about the company, who already do it on a regular basis. You can go and select your top voices on LinkedIn or whatever other social media that you prefer or want to be on. And those are going to be your key brand ambassadors. You want to brief them on the type of content that maybe they want to push out. You can provide that content to them, not prepackaged content, but allowing them to use their own unique voice and put a twist on it. So let's say you want to share a really cool piece of news about the company, a business update, a culture update, whatever it is. Provide them with that headline and like a summary of what happened or what you want them to communicate. And then those people can add their own unique perspective to it. Give them exposure, give them visibility, recognize them both internally and externally. These people are inspiring others to do so too. And then once you have...
I don't know if this is me or Anna, but I cannot hear you, Anna.
Is everyone here? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, but I think there was a moment where there was an issue with Wi-Fi, but I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay, as long as you can hear me. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think the Wi-Fi
No, that's okay. There was a moment.
Working. It just said no more.
It's all good.
Okay. I was saying that after you have all your people selected, educated, all that great resource material, create your hashtag, right? So decide what your hashtag will be. So you can collect all that content under that one hashtag, which could be company name, careers. It could be life at, it could be we are, whatever it is that you want to call your hashtag that's going to empower people and really put all that great content underneath one kind of umbrella sort of hashtag, because then you want to track it and see how it's doing and collect all of it too, because you can go and research that hashtag later.
Love that tip, Anna. What's your hashtag? What's your company hashtag if people would like to have a look?
It's Life at NielsenIQ. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And also it's a great tip to have the hashtag because, for example, if you have a life page on LinkedIn underneath your company profile, there's a feed that collects and pulls all the content associated with specific hashtags. So if you have a hashtag associated with it, all of your employees that use that hashtag, all that great content is going to go on your life page automatically. So hack. So I think most people do have a hashtag though, but it's really key to this. Obviously your social channels, decide kind of the main platforms you want to be on based on where your audience is, based on the type of industry you're in or the type of business that you have. Most are on LinkedIn. Maybe you want to be on TikTok, maybe you want to be on Instagram, depending on your business. And then finally, the final piece is obviously your internal channels and platforms. So for example, if you use Slack, which I used to use and I used to love, you can send a communication to all of your employees and notify them, right? So if you post something on social media that you want to tell people about so that they can engage with it and like it, you can share that on a Slack, or you can share it on a Yammer if that's something that you use within your company. So let's say you post an employee story or you saw a really great piece of content from an employee, you can share that internally with the rest of your employees so that person gets even more exposure and people can engage with it. So those are really the ingredients for me to kickstart a great employee advocacy, whether formal or informal program?
You've just provided people with a very typical Anna Bertoldini style framework, very clear framework on how to start with your employee advocacy program. So here are my notes.
I'm so happy.
Point number one, make sure your employees are happy. Absolutely crucial. Like you said, this is the starting point. Yes, you cannot have people talking about your brands or putting themselves out there if you don't look after them first. Second one, provide personal branding training and guidelines for people. Third one, identify champions. So those that are happy to share, they might be already sharing, and focus on them to start with to inspire others. Next one, you said create your hashtag. So live ad, for example, to collate all of that content shared by employees. And the final one, internal way of sharing the content, of curating, I guess, sharing the content or passing the content to employees to share, or at least giving some ideas for them what to share. 5 points. How simple is this? This is great. I love this, Anna.
And I just want to mention one thing regarding the guidelines that I said earlier. Guidelines to me are not meant to restrict people. Like, hey, you should say this or that. It's not meant to, control the narrative. That's not what those are about. I just saw in my experience getting people, to speak up. People are afraid to do so. They're afraid of getting in trouble. Many times the reason why they don't is, hey, what if I say something that's wrong? What if I say something that the company is not okay with and I get in trouble for it? I've seen that happen a lot. So the guidelines are really just meant to give people, I want to say like some do's and don'ts, right? Like very general ones, like, hey, don't share your email address externally. Don't share this like confidential piece of information. I used to love using the New York Times headline test. Like if you saw that post on the New York Times headline, would you be okay with it? So that's just meant to give people just, the confidence to speak up, knowing that if they, stay within those small guidelines, they won't get in trouble. We're encouraging it.
Brilliant. We also, when we train people, we also do it based on specific scenarios. So, for example, people are afraid of what will happen if somebody makes a negative comment on my post, or what will happen if, I don't know, somebody makes a comment about financial situation of the company. What do I do? So sometimes you just addressing few of these scenarios, they already give people confidence that there are ways to deal with this. There are people that support me in this. I know what to do. And even if I don't, even if something unexpected happens, Anna or somebody else within the company will be there to hold my hand to help me. I'm not on my own with this, but I already have some information to start with to reduce that fear of messing up. This is the latest thing in the social selling world, the latest thing. But yes, fear of messing up. I guess that's a good way of calling it.
Exactly. Agreed.
Okay. So guidelines are there to help people rather than to restrict them. Is that a good summary of these last few points?
That's perfect. You said it great. Yeah.
There you go. Somebody said, I know this is what you are. This is whole you, and now in a LinkedIn Live format, you write few sentences, sometimes one sentence, and you go straight to the point. And here we are again. Love this, Anna. Francesca said, people always say to me, I can't write. They are just afraid to experience something new out of their comfort zone. Once you guide them there, magic happens.
Francesca, absolutely agreed. She also comes from near my hometown, so I know Francesca really well. That's a great comment.
Francesca again said nobody wants perfection. I think that was earlier on when we talked about authenticity and creating those videos that are easy to do with a mobile phone. And I think we've got one question from Preeti. If I could just leave that for now, Preeti, I think this could fit in well later on when we discuss a couple of other points. And I wish I knew, I hope I'm saying this name right, how? Oh, you probably help me. Can you help me with that, Anna?
Wait, I need to access the comments. So wait.
Oh, okay. You click on comments. So you've got private chat option on the right hand side, and then there's comments.
Yes. What am I looking at though? What am I reading?
the last few comments. So I'm just basically reading through the last few comments. Yes. So I think it's how Henrica Calegaro, if I'm saying this right.
Joao.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should know better. My name starts with that letter as well, but in another language. LinkedIn user is asking, what was the 4th and the 5 points again? I guess this was about the framework that Anna has presented to us when it comes to starting with running employee advocacy program. So I think the 4th point was,
like, wait,
there were 5. There were 5.
5 points.
Point number 4, for those of you who didn't make a note because I was reading it very fast, to create a hashtag to group all of these conversations in one place so that people can click on it. And point number 5 was to identify internal platform to share content with your employees.
Yeah,
I hope this helps. And Donna is offering, oh, there you go. Donna is also summarizing this in comments. I think I'm quite slow with replying because there is a bit of a delay there. I am loving this conversation that is happening in the comments as well. Thank you, guys. This is great. Any questions that you have as well, please pop them into the chat. We'll move on to these in a moment. Just talking a bit more about creating content. I know you said you've got a team within the company that creates content, but you touched on before in our previous conversations on the tools that people could use, even individual users. What are these at Nielsen?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And I have to admit, I've been really lucky to always work in companies that had internal creative teams or design teams, to be honest. But I have relied on agencies and Canva as well in the past. When maybe I didn't have access to a specific design resource. So at NielsenIQ, we do have an in-house design team, but what we've done to sort of streamline the process of creating content, especially for employee-related campaigns, is to have them create templates. So have the design team create some templates that I can easily edit with our current brand if we have any branding applied. And so that I don't have to rely on them every time I have a request, because if every week I had to go to them and say, hey, can you create one more thing? It'd be a really slow process. And obviously it'd be a bother to have to go back every time. So we do have some templates ready that they've put together for us very nicely. If there's obviously an exception to those or something specific, they're always really happy to help out. Speaking to other people in the employer branding space, I know Canva is a great tool. People have used Canva, people use and have used Canva. And as long as you have some training, I guess, because it does take some practice to use it. So you have to get to know the tool. But there you can create templates as well. Templates are the key to success, like having templates ready that you can easily go and edit and send out, because a lot of the stuff is ad hoc as well. It's not all proactive. Sometimes it's a bit of reactive content as well, is absolutely key. And then, of course, agencies. If you have the budget to have an agency that will create content for you or a specific tool, then that's amazing. And if you don't have any of these things, so if you can't use Canva and then you don't have templates, you can't pay an agency, I would recommend, and you don't have an in-house design team that everyone can use, I would recommend sharing resources. Every company probably has a marketing team or a communications team that has their own resource. So collaborating with them and sharing that resource that they have to create those templates can also help out. Depending on your different situation, constraints, budgets, there are different solutions. But having content ready that you can easily edit and pull together in very little time is going to be your secret weapon, secret sauce to success.
Secret sauce for time saving as well and budget saving, right? These templates. Yes. I love that tip about templates. This is absolutely brilliant. And we've got quite a few fans of Canva. Yes, put your hands up out there listening. Here at Tribal Impact, yeah, there you go. I am too. So it's a great tool, right? It's incredible how easy you suddenly can use all of those templates to create really, really good looking graphics. One tip from me, just to share, I don't know if you've explored that as well, Anna, is to use for creating videos. There are tools like Vidyard or Loom that allow you to use them directly from your computer. So you can either record your screen or you can record yourself directly from a computer. And there are free versions of these. And you could also use that as well to very quickly create a video that either features a person or a screen. So sharing screen and creating a little demo. A lot of our clients, especially from IT sector, use that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll definitely take a look at that afterwards and see what we can utilize.
There you go. So little things like that, right, make a big difference. Someone asked a question. So Maxine asked a great question actually that fits in very well at this point of the conversation is how can we encourage, Maxine is asking, how can we encourage our people to put themselves out there and represent the company?
You know, I kind of going back to one of the points I made previously, it's really about educating, right? Personal branding, because this is really what it's about, right? You know, giving people a voice, but also helping them build their personal brand. It's about educating people on how beneficial it can be to have a personal brand. I mean, I know this from my own experience, like building my brand has helped me out a ton, not just in my career, but also in just creating those key relationships, especially in the employer branding space, but whatever space you work in. But for employer branding, there's not much I wouldn't say there's like official education out there. Now I see more academies and courses showing up about employer branding, which are of great quality. But in the past, when I was starting off, we didn't have so much material. So I was often relying on networking with people to learn more about employer branding and getting, you know, best practices and tips. But also network and follow influencers in the space, or, you know, look at the comment section. And personal branding can help employees by giving them, it helps in so many ways. So networking, visibility, I'd say also reach, like it helps in many ways. So educating people on the benefits of branding is going to be really helpful in helping them to do it. There are so many ways. So I think that's really it. Like not everyone is going to be willing to do it. And that's just a reality of employee advocacy. Some people are really excited to be vocal. Some people are on the fence and just need like a bit of convincing, a bit of guidelines, a bit of training. And other people just don't want to put themselves out there. And that's completely fine, because not everyone is going to be vocal. Not everyone feels comfortable doing so. And that's okay. Like we don't need to have everyone speak up. I mean, that's really utopian. Everyone's just going to do it. So really counting on the ones who want to. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? You start with the ones that see the benefit, that see the value, and then you expand others by showing those success stories as well. I think one of the reasons, when you were saying that the reasons why people may want to build personal brand, one of the reasons that we give to our clients is because it helps you learn. When you make a decision to build your personal brand, first thing you got to decide, just like with any brand, it could be, you know, company brand, is what is it that you are about? What is it that you do? What do you stand for? What are your values? So it helps you, just even looking at the LinkedIn profile, creating your LinkedIn profile, you have to define what is your area of expertise. And then when you decide to share, if you share about your area of expertise, it probably makes you think twice or three times more before you create that content, before you publish it, of what is it exactly that you think about this subject. And sometimes you need to research in the subject a bit more so that you add even more value to your audience. So we've seen that we had Malin from SAP a while ago on this show, and she was saying that learning was the number one reason why people decided to go on social media and to push themselves out there to build their personal brand. So everyone will have their own reason, but the effect is probably very similar.
Depending on what you do, right? Like, I mean, if you want to list out the full benefits of personal branding, like we mentioned learning, we mentioned networking, but also lead generation. Like, let's say you're in sales. Like if you're, you know, constantly publishing great content about your product, people are going to want to buy that product and you're going to have a bigger pipeline. Or if you're a recruiter and you're saying how great your company is, you're going to have candidates and inbound applications come in. Like it can help you in so many ways, not just like within your own sphere of knowledge, but also in your job in some cases.
So like you said earlier, it's a win-win situation, yes? Encouraging people to build personal brand, it's work for your employer brand, but also for them as individuals. And there's a lot of other comments happening in here.
I just have one more thing to say to Maxine, because she asked a really good question. I want to mention something else. Leadership role modeling. Like if your leadership is also very active on social media, let's just say LinkedIn for now, like on LinkedIn, you're going to be inspired to do so too. Like if you see leaders that are taking the time to share their thoughts and are putting themselves out there, employees are also going to be inspired to do so. So I think having leaders role model this and be great advocates for the company is also going to inspire more and more people to be so as well. So that's another piece to this, not just educating, but also seeing others do it is such a source of inspiration. It's amazing.
Great point. This is a great point. Yes, it's almost like permission. If they do that, then I can do that too. And moreover, if they engage, if the leadership engages with the employees' content, we've seen that having a huge impact on employee engagement, not just in terms of the program, but also in general. People feel more engaged because they get this little recognition, even if it's in the form of a like on social media, they get this recognition from the leader. Directly thanks to their content. So brilliant, great tips, leadership, huge one. So I hope I'm saying this right, probably not. Schmidt, if anyone needs, make sure your employees are happy. Oh, there you go. So Ice is once again summarizing your points. There you go. How many people made notes on these points because they are so structured. So great framework. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah. And also, Bill is actually my former manager and he's in the chat. We also work together on his brand and he does amazing things too. So he was one of my leadership role models. And he also mentioned everyone's social as a tool. I agree. That's a great tool for employee advocacy.
Okay.
They don't pay me to say this, just so you know, they're not paying me. I'm just mentioning it.
Okay. Thank you. We employee branding people should be all chief happiness officers too. There you go. Francesca, the comment there.
I love that.
Someone mentioned something about motivating employees. I think we talked about it. What's in it for them beyond the personal branding? This is really important for leaders, if comfortable. Okay, great conversation, really fantastic. Okay, so just moving into a few more questions that we've had. What's next then for NielsenIQ? So we know where you are right now. What are you thinking in terms of the future?
That's a great question. So we'll keep expanding our employee advocacy program. We just started. I mean, our employee stories campaign has been going on since August last year, and we just started creating these official, let's call them ambassador programs. So we're going to keep expanding and developing them and equipping our employees with the right resources, materials, and tools to keep voicing, their story online. So I can only see a development and the help and the tools that we use to make sure that people are doing this. And what else? Like, we're also going to be combining soon with another company. We're going to be combining with JFK, so we'll have an even bigger employee base to rely on for employee advocacy. So more and more people are going to be able to tell their story too. It's going to be very exciting. We're going through a period of transformation. So I see definitely development in this as we keep developing our programs and more people sign up for it. More people are doing it, inspiring others. I definitely see a huge growth in employee advocacy at NielsenIQ.
You have a great momentum. It sounds like it. The company is very energized for doing that even on a higher level. And I love that. And I love the fact that you are the driver behind this, to have a passionate leader behind the program and someone who is an example as well, like you are, of the power of employer branding. I mean, just the fact that of employee branding, yes, because we're now talking about your own personal brand. The fact that we're talking here is because I met you on LinkedIn, is because you made that decision to share your knowledge and experiences. And that kind of experience is really empowering for anyone's growth within the company, and at the same time shines the light on the company and what a great place it is to work and to work with, yes, as a client. So I've got a final question to you because we're running out of time. And if anyone has got any more questions, then we probably have a room for another question from the audience. How do you measure success of these kind of programs?
Absolutely. I mean, in employer branding, we measure mostly social media engagement, right? The reach of our content, especially talking about the employee stories campaign. All of our employee stories posts lead to our career site. So we also measure career site traffic, volume of applications, qualified applicants. We see sources of traffic and especially social media, right? To make sure that people are clicking and are interacting with those posts and are then led to our career site and decide to apply. So also those application starts. So that's related to the posts themselves. We also look at accolades, right? And then campaign data in the case we do have a paid campaign. So there are different metrics for that too, but mainly engagement, impressions, reach, and volume of traffic to our career site and applications. I mean, Bill will notice from the comments, like what really matters when you talk about employer branding and hiring is clicks, applies, and hires. So that's really something that we look at. All of our campaigns are meant to drive awareness, but also lead to great hires for the company. They're meant to attract the best talent and then keep that talent so that they feel valued and recognized then within the organization. So we make sure that we're kind of looking at each touch point there.
Great tips. And all of them are highly measurable, right? All of these points are, you are able to measure in one way or another. So it's an activity that you can see the impact on in a variety of different ways. Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Great tips here again. We've got a comment, quite a few comments. Gosh, there's a lot of conversation going on in here. The biggest fear of old mindset companies: if my talents speak out on LinkedIn, we risk losing them. Some others can hire them. Anyone did experience this?
Is that a question? It's more like a statement, but
I think so, yes.
So here's the thing with that. Like I definitely see Francesca's point there. I believe that if an employee is happy within an organization, they're satisfied, no matter how many times they get contacted by other recruiters, they're not going to leave. And definitely if building their brand means they're going to be contacted more, it doesn't mean they're going to leave, because if they're satisfied, then they're going to stay. So there's nothing really you can do to prevent someone from leaving other than making them happy. So this can probably make them more visible as top talent, but ultimately they're not going to leave if they're happy.
Great point. Absolutely great point. Straight to the point again. And then just finally, and all I would say is, yes, we're running out of time. So all I would say is this conversation, I'm sure, can be continued, maybe in form of a private chat as well, Anna. I guess anyone can easily find you here on LinkedIn. So I would definitely encourage all of you to reach out to Anna or to myself if you've got any questions or observations as well, or perhaps start your own conversation on LinkedIn. There you go. If you haven't already, post a question there. There you go.
Make a poll. Yeah.
Make a poll. There you go. That could be the easiest way, and see what sort of answers you get there and what sort of conversation it trigger, because this is the power of this, right? Yes, you share the content, but the beauty happens, the magic happens, as someone mentioned, is when the conversation starts happening and when you learn even more through the engagement that people have through these posts. So just final comment in here that we have from Lena is, employees should be given blocks of time in their calendars for employee advocacy posts. Wow. Well, this is interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I am all for it. Yes, if they use that time for this, for sure. But one thing I want to mention to everyone is that, like, especially when we talk about conversations and discussions, like on LinkedIn and other platforms, like, don't look so much at vanity metrics, like, oh, how many follows, likes, like, look at the conversations that are starting. I think that's something that, because especially with my own posts, like, I look at the likes, obviously it's like, oh yeah, that's nice, a lot of people liked it. But ultimately I'm looking at what are people saying, what are people contributing, what type of conversations did this post start? And that's really what you're interested in, because that's where your community is ultimately built, is in the comment section. So if you're trying to build your brand yourself, both for your company and being a brand ambassador, but also just for you to further your own knowledge, job, career, whatever, make sure that you're starting those interesting conversations that we are looking at.
Perfect tip on how to look at what sort of impact that has. Anna, is there any question that I should have asked you and I haven't, or any words of summary that you would like to offer to the audience?
I think that was my final word. Thank you so much for everyone, for joining and being a part of this and asking questions, and in general for being a part of this community. I really appreciate everyone, and I hope to see you on LinkedIn, and please connect with me. Please, let's have a conversation. Let's have a chat. I'm always open to virtual coffees. So I'll see you there.
Amazing. Anna, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think we could talk for hours on this subject. I really appreciate what you do. I really appreciate how much you bring to this community. please keep going. Your content is of huge value to so many of us. You lead in the way and you're helping us learn. Thank you very much, Anna. Just a couple of notes for those of you who are listening. Please connect with us. Come and join this conversation. We are also organizing an event, a face-to-face event that is happening in London on the 16th of May for all people interested in running these kind of programs or already running these kind of programs with their employees, especially on a large scale, enterprise level scale. Ryan will post the link in here if you would like to register your interest and join us in person for these conversations. For us, it's all about building community. For us, it's all about exchanging knowledge and learning from each other. Many of us are just starting. Many of us are further down the line in terms of their experience. We would love to get to know you even better through the face-to-face event. So thank you for joining for this online one. Thank you once again, Anna, for joining us here. And yes, let's continue this conversation on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you.